Happily Ever After has finally arrived. After a whirlwind 2-year love story, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are tying the knot. This is your own very special invitation to the great day and the inside story behind the modern couple who are breathing new life into the royal family.
I think it's a really interesting time for the royal family, and I think this marriage sort of cements a transition that's been happening for a while with the monarchy modernising and moving with the times. But above all of that, they're clearly in love. So that's, all the other things are just a bonus in helping to show a much more modern, relevant monarchy.
We'll take you behind palace doors to see how the preparations are made for this spectacular event. We'll glimpse into the royal weddings of the past and, of course, celebrate the big day from moment to moment.
I'm happy that this has been a day of joy and happiness for both the royal couple and the families, but for everybody who is there in the church, and by church I mean those who were physically present and those who were virtually present. And it was a church with millions and millions of people there, not watching a performance, but watching two people who were in love and who have come to God to bless their love in their lives, and the whole world rejoiced. That's such an incredible thing. As my grandma said, it's a glory hallelujah moment.
Finding what she really wanted for her day, and just to find the absolute perfect style for her. She's exactly what you see on TV. She's just so genuine and warm and radiant.
For those of us romantics, it brought quite a tear to our eyes to see this couple that's very obviously madly in love see each other at the altar for the very first time. When Meghan and Harry emerged from the church, we had a beautiful shot of them framed by gorgeous bouquets of flowers, and then, of course, a very touching and romantic kiss, which we knew was coming, but it was nonetheless romantic and spontaneous when it happened.
This is Harry and Meghan, the royal wedding.
The atmosphere today has been electric. We have had more people come out to watch this wedding than any royal wedding in history. And you've seen a genuine level of excitement. I think people feel that Meghan Markle is the new people's princess. She's someone that we relate to. She's a commoner. She has a dodgy family like a lot of us do. She's an American. And I think we've seen also a tremendous interest from America. There are as many Americans here nearly as there are Brits. America is over the moon because it feels like we finally got our own real-life princess. People have been camping out here for days to try and make sure they got a good view. Locals in Windsor have been cashing in, renting out their homes and flats on Airbnb for upwards of £3,000 a night. Even local hoteliers have been releasing suites with balcony views of the processional for £2,000 and £3,000.
I have never seen Windsor so busy. The buzz here is beyond all of my expectations. I've been the town crier for 6 years. This is the busiest I've ever seen it. It's going to be an amazing day.
Those of us who live in the UK know that the great British weather is mostly pretty awful. So today was a glorious day for a wedding. The sun was shining on this very happy couple. And although it was predicted to be far colder than it was actually a very warm, sunny, beautiful day, a great start for a new marriage.
Ever since the announcement of their engagement on November the 27th, 2017, the world has been eagerly awaiting the next royal spectacular. the wedding of Prince Harry and American actress Meghan Markle.
Just an amazing surprise. It was so sweet and natural and very romantic. He got on one knee.
Of course. Was it an instant yes from you?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I could barely let you finish proposing. I was like, can I say yes now?
She didn't even let me finish. She said, can I say yes, can I say yes now? And then there was hugs and I had the ring in my finger and I was like, can I give you the ring? She goes, oh, yes, the ring.
They're very affectionate. They're clearly a couple very much in love. You can see that whether they're, doing an official engagement or just, on their way to and from. They're very affectionate with each other, very sort of supportive of each other, and clearly very happy. It's very sweet.
The eyes of the world are on the historic town of Windsor. The wedding is being held at St George's Chapel in the grounds of Windsor Castle, the Queen's favourite residence.
Now, Windsor Castle is what the Queen regards as home in London. It's 29 miles out of London. It's in a beautiful, scenic town, very old town, and it's where she has her horses. It's where she can be private. Buckingham Palace is a wonderful, wonderful building, but that's sort of thought of as the office. That's where lots of staff come. That's where she can meet ambassadors. That's where she can deal with all the things she has to. But Windsor is home.
They wanted Windsor for a number of reasons. First of all, it's a more intimate venue than Westminster Abbey, and I think, Harry not being directly in the direct line of succession, he didn't want a big state do, and nor did Meghan. It has enough guests to allow them to have lots of people there, but make it feel a little bit more intimate. Also, it's a place that's very close to the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. They're in residence at Windsor at the moment, so it's easier for them to get to. They're in their 90s. Prince Philip has just had a hip operation, so again, that helps. And also, it's a place that we know that's become very special to them. They've spent time at Windsor together when they were going out before they got engaged. We know they spent time at Windsor Castle and at Frogmore. So all of those things, I think it was a very personal choice.
The ceremony is being held at St George's Chapel, which is part of Windsor Castle, and it's in the old crenellated walls. What's interesting about the chapel is it's beautiful. It's not huge. I think about 600 people can fit in, which is nothing like Westminster Abbey, which is 3 times the size.
Built in 1475, this stunning 15th century Gothic chapel has seen many a royal wedding within its walls. The elaborate stone fan vaulting is hailed as one of the finest examples of masonry in the world, and hundreds of hours of planning have brought incredible beauty and elegance to a setting fit for a fairy tale.
Meghan Markle's wedding day starts pretty early. The wedding's at 12. Meghan will have spent the night at Clifton, famous hotel very nearby, with her mother, Doria Ragland. And Harry is going to spend the night with his best man, Prince William. Prince William looking forward to being best man because he says he's going to get revenge on whatever Harry said when he was his best man when Prince William married Catherine.
Before the guests begin to arrive and before the crowds began lining the streets, a massive operation was underway to ensure that every aspect of the couple's special day would go swimmingly.
Preparation for a wedding on this scale has been going on for, the last 6 months since they got engaged, but even before that. And it's extraordinary, the scale of the preparation, not just from Windsor preparing itself and everything that goes with that, from road management to security, huge security operation, but then all the finer details of the wedding, the dress, the cake, the catering, the invitations, getting people from around the world over here, the broadcasting, all of that. It's a massive operation, and it's taken all hands on deck, all the households, Kensington Palace, Buckingham Palace and Clarence House, so many councils, the help of the government, the Department for Culture and Sport are on it. It's huge. It's a major national event.
So on the security side, of course, there's a great deal of worry, but that will have been very efficiently handled. Sewers will have been searched, every street will have been searched. I think the police, MI5, Scotland Yard, sniffer dogs, will all have been involved.
Every detail has been carefully considered by Meghan and Harry, and by all reports, they have been involved in every single decision. Even their invited guests, you know, they invited 1,200 members of the public, people who were war heroes, people on charity boards. They invited them personally to come and watch the wedding. Meghan and Harry provided gift bags for them. They have fruit and drinks for a little reception for them. They've tried very hard to be as inclusive as they possibly can. Well, we knew there were going to be a certain amount of celebrities. We knew Meghan was inviting most of the cast of Suits, who all came and had dinner at Clifton House with her the night before her big day. We were a bit surprised to see Oprah Winfrey. It was a pleasant surprise walking in with Idris Elba, never bad on the eyes. And I think, of course, we all saw Amal Clooney and George Clooney come in. Amal Clooney, one of the best dressed today, looking resplendent in yellow. Amal is actually friends with Meghan. They've become friendly in their kind of mutual London fabulous circles, and they share a hairdresser, which most of us as women know is a truly bonding, uniting thing to share. So Meghan and Amal are really the connection there. George and Harry just came along for the ride. One thing we saw was a true meeting of Hollywood royalty and British royalty. We've never seen so many celebrities at a royal wedding before. Interestingly enough, there were some royals cut off the guest list. Generally, at these things, we have a lot of cousins, a lot of royal connections, loose connections. Harry decided enough of that. He really cut short the kind of hangers-on, the people, second and third cousins. He was done. We're going to see from Harry, I think, a much more focus on real people and not so much his royal connection.
It has been quite a whirlwind for the unlikely couple to make it to this momentous occasion.
As a royal engagement, this has been relatively brief, but you have to think about it. Only 100 years ago, royal marriages were often arranged. You know, a foreign princess would be plucked out of Europe to marry the king, the one who was roughly the right age, the one who was roughly the right sort of type. And of course now we've let people choose the love of their lives like everybody else does.
So they met through a mutual friend who set them up really on a blind date, and they had their first date at Soho House in London in 2016. And then, of course, you know, with Meghan living and working at the time in Toronto in Canada, where she was filming Suits, and Harry being based in London, they realised they would have to really go out their way to make time for each other very quickly. So within a few weeks of that first date, they were on holiday together in Botswana.
They were camping under the stars. I don't think it's camping in a way that you and I know it. It's probably a bit more luxurious than that.
The couple's first public appearance together was at the 2016 Invictus Games in Toronto. On September 26th, the couple emerged hand in hand and sat together for a wheelchair tennis match.
And 6 months ago, they announced they were engaged.
Your Royal Highness Meghan Markle, congratulations to you both.
I think it's a really interesting time for the royal family, and I think this marriage sort of cements a transition that's been happening for a while with the monarchy modernising and moving with the times. If you look back to, 30 years ago, even, divorce was such a taboo. It's no longer a taboo. Our next king and queen are both divorced. So the fact that Harry's now able to marry someone who's been divorced isn't an issue, is a great thing. She's mixed race. That would have been an issue probably years ago. It isn't anymore. It's great. It means that Harry's wife is going to be much more reflective of society in general than the sort of blue-blooded people who've married into the royal family previously. So I think it's a brilliant thing. But above all of that, they're clearly in love. So that's, all the other things are just a bonus in helping to show a much more modern, relevant monarchy.
As Meghan Markle and her mother, Doria Ragland, left Cliveden House and made their way to Windsor Castle, crowds got their very first glimpse of the blushing bride. A rapturous applause followed them as they made their drive down the long walk. In just over an hour, Meghan would pass along this road again, but by then, she will be royalty. When Prince Harry and his best man and brother Prince William emerged, the crowds rejoiced. Prince Harry chose to wear his blues and royals garments, not his highest ranking position, but a position that means a great deal to him.
Prince Harry was commissioned into the Household Cavalry Regiment, into the Blues and Royals Squadron, and he served with them for more than 10 years, and they'll have a very special role on the day. There's also going to be support on the day. We'll see representatives from the Gurkhas, who Harry served with, and also the Army Air Corps, who he served with later on as an Apache co-gunner pilot. So there'll be a strong representation from the military, and also lots of other regiments that he has honorary positions with, like the Royal Marines, which is now Captain General. The Armed Forces is very close to Harry's heart, and so there'll be, we'll see a lot of them on the day.
Well, I talked to the Queen's dresser ages ago, and she told me that the Queen always wears as bright a color as possible so that everyone can see her. Well, today she did not disappoint. She walked in wearing a neon green, nearly fluorescent green coat over a beautifully patterned dress that had green and purple. The Queen was vibrant today, and I think it's reflective of her mood. Truly, the Queen is in a celebratory mood today. Harry is one of her favorite grandchildren, and I think she very much approves of his choice today. It was great to see Prince Philip there. After his recent hip operation, we really didn't know if he would manage to make it. Not only did he walked in unaided, without a cane, without support. He was as regal as he ever was, and he sat proudly with Queen Elizabeth, and I'm sure Prince Philip was very glad that his health issues did not keep him from celebrating this great family occasion.
The most anticipated moment of any royal wedding is without doubt the moment the bride arrives and the world gets to see the stunning first sight of her in the wedding dress. Speculation has been rife for months, but the dress remains entirely secret until the reveal on the day.
There are many rumours about who is making this dress. Ralph and Russo made the dress that Meghan wore for her engagement, a fabulously couture gown, and they're known for amazing embroidery. My feeling is she might wear something simpler for the wedding, designed by someone else, possibly Roland Mouret, possibly Burberry, possibly going back to the dressmaker that her sister-in-law wore, Alexander McQueen. Everybody denies it when you ring them up. So it'll be very interesting to see.
But it's still, despite acres of coverage and speculation, it is just speculation. We won't know, Harry won't know, until that moment she steps out the car and we see the dress for the first time.
The British have always had the monopoly on extraordinary pomp and ceremony, and nowhere has that been clearer than in their weddings. As far back as the marriage of the Queen Mother, Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, to the future King George VI in 1923, when film had not long been invented, ordinary people gasped in amazement and wonder at the grandeur and beauty surrounding the royals' big day. The marriage of their daughter, the future Queen of England, Princess Elizabeth, to Philip Mountbatten on November the 20th, 1947, was the first royal wedding to be televised with full commentary.
Leading the joyful procession up the Mall, the bridal pair received a welcome which came from London's very heart. Right up to the very gates of the palace itself, the coach seemed borne along on wave after wave of cheers. Before long, the calls of the people were answered as onto the famous balcony came the bride and bridegroom.
It was to be another 13 years before the Queen's beautiful young sister, Princess Margaret, was to tie the knot to society photographer Anthony Armstrong-Jones, later known as Lord Snowdon. A few years earlier, Princess Margaret had caused huge controversy amongst royal circles. It was when she almost married Group Captain Peter Townsend, her father's equerry. At the time, as a divorced man, many felt that Townsend was an unsuitable husband for the Queen's sister, and the Church of England refused to countenance the marriage. So, Margaret, under pressure, abandoned her plans to marry Townsend and accepted the proposal instead of the photographer Anthony Armstrong-Jones. And it was to be yet another 13 years again before royal fans would rejoice in another wedding celebration. This time it was the turn of the Queen's daughter, Princess Anne, who married Captain Mark Phillips on November the 16th, 1973.
I, Anne Elizabeth Alice Louise.
I, Anne Elizabeth Alice Louise.
Take thee, Mark Antony Peter.
Take thee, Mark Antony Peter.
To my wedded husband.
To my wedded husband.
O eternal God, creator and preserver of all mankind, giver of all spiritual grace, the author of everlasting life, send thy blessing upon these thy servants, this man and this woman, whom we bless in thy name.
Of course, the most flamboyant, and some would say best-loved royal wedding of them all, was that of the current heir to the British throne, Prince Charles, to Lady Diana Spencer in July 1981. 3,500 guests were at St Paul's Cathedral, and 2 million spectators lined the route of the bridal procession from Clarence House. Lady Diana arrived at the cathedral in a glass coach with her father, Earl Spencer. She made the 3.5-minute walk up the red-carpeted aisle with the sumptuous 25-foot train behind her. On April the 29th, 2011, Prince William, the second in line to the throne, married Catherine Middleton to an audience of almost 2 billion people. It was a grand event for a grand occasion. But this time, things would be quite different for his younger brother.
This is not a state wedding. It will feel like it. It will look like it because there's going to be a carriage and outriders. But this is nothing like the wedding of William and Catherine at Westminster Abbey.
I think they wanted Windsor for a number of reasons. First of all, it's a more intimate venue than Westminster Abbey, and I think, Harry not being directly in the direct line of succession, he didn't want a big state do, and nor did Meghan. It has enough guests to allow them to have lots of people there, but make it feel a little bit more intimate. Also, it's a place that's very close to the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. They're in residence at Windsor at the moment, so it's easier for them to get to. They're in their 90s. Prince Philip has just had a hip operation, so again, that helps. And also, it's a place that we know that's become very special to them. They've spent time at Windsor together when they were going out before they got engaged. We know they spent time at Windsor Castle and at Frogmore. So all of those things, I think it was a very personal choice.
I've been very lucky enough to cover every royal wedding since Princess Anne's first wedding. So it's a long time. And you're always amazed how rammed the streets are, how full the place is, how there's bunting and there are Union Jack flags all over London, aren't there? And there are all over Windsor and in lots of other places. People are having parties. People in America are getting up in the middle of the night and dressing up and having champagne and English breakfasts. I mean, all over the world, this will be seen by millions. The media understand, the media in this country and all over the world understand the most famous woman in the world is Her Majesty the Queen. And the most famous family in the world is our royal family because it's so ancient, because of its history, and because the Queen has done such a brilliant job, and the Prince of Wales, in serving their country.
always a tremendous amount of speculation as to what designer the bride will wear. Going into this, the strong favorite was Ralph and Russo. In fact, it was widely reported Meghan would be wearing Ralph and Russo. And then, just yesterday, there was a very strong buzz that it was going to be Stella McCartney. So you can imagine everyone was completely taken off guard this morning when she emerged in a stunning dress by a British designer called Claire Waite Keller, who happens to be the first British artistic director of Givenchy. So she's wearing a Givenchy dress designed by a Brit. Meghan was always going to wear a British designer today. She has virtually no choice, but she chose an extremely classic, simple, and elegant design.
I met with Meghan late last year, and so we had an initial meeting, and then I found out in early January. Oh, it was an extraordinary moment when she told me. Of course, it's an incredible thing to be part of such a historic moment, and the fact that also the opportunity to work with her. It was very collaborative. I think she had very much seen my work and knew what I did. I think she loved the fact that I was a British designer and working in a house such as Givenchy, which has got its roots in a very classical, beautiful style, of course, from the time of Hubert himself. So it was a wonderful way to kind of start the collaboration with her, just talking about that, and also finding what she really wanted for her day, and just to find the absolute perfect style for her. It's a process to actually work on a dress such as this, and part of it was really conversations at the beginning, and then through a series of sketches that I proposed to her, and we exchanged conversations about what would be the ultimate sort of lines and proportions and the scale of the dress. But over time, we quickly got to a point where I know she felt really that she knew exactly what she wanted, having tried some toiles and some of the mock-ups that I had shown her, and then it evolved into the final design. Oh, she's exactly what you see on TV. She's just so genuine and warm and radiant. She's just glowing, and she's a strong woman. She knows what she wants, and it was really an absolute joy working with her. And I came up with the idea of maybe representing each of the countries, the 53 countries of the Commonwealth, through their flora and fauna. And we both love the story of that. And it also meant that every single one of those countries also journeyed up the aisle with her, which I thought was a really poetic moment. Even the little 3D flowers here, which are done in organza and just lift gently off the veil. And then some of the flora, so you have some of the orchids from some of the Asian countries. And here's just some of the more wild flowers that would be in the veil and how they were represented in the scale.
She was very happy. It was a beautiful morning, you know, just the perfect morning when going to get married. It's pretty amazing. It's really hard to describe. I think it's going to hit me a little more tomorrow when I get home, but it's surreal. Yeah, it's definitely surreal. It's something that, you know, we all could dream of, and when the dream comes, you know, and it's become reality, and it's actually almost better than the dream itself, then it's a home run. And I just always loved her style. I just loved the way that easiness about her, and that smile that she has, and so that's just something that just, you know, calls you in some ways that way. So you always want to work with people that you feel that you might get along with, and that just might be a good partnership on that level.
Meghan walked out of the car all alone. This is something we don't see very often. Royal brides are always accompanied by their father. She looked very independent, very solitary, and very nervous, to be honest. But as she got to the end of the aisle and began to walk down, you could see her confidence, her natural grace coming through. What was quite touching, though, was Prince Harry wiping away tears from the moment he first saw her coming down towards him down the aisle. Again, at the altar, there were several points where Harry wiped away tears. I think he was very emotional, not the least because he was very much, I'm sure, thinking of his mother. Although the dress was very simple in terms of design, there were no beads, there was no lace. It was absolutely thoughtfully and beautifully done. Meghan was a spectacular bride, which is what we expected her to be. But what was also interesting to me was she was not interested in flash. She was not interested in upstaging anybody. She was very simple, elegant, and tasteful. This was a very glamorous woman who knows that she knows how to pull off a dress like that. Meghan was absolutely glamorous, radiant, and beautiful, no less than we expected from a Hollywood star. Meghan stuck with a very British tradition, which is to have small children as your bridesmaids or flower girls and page boys rather than adult female bridesmaids, which is what Americans typically do. She followed the British way, and she had her family and friends' children. Of course, we saw Princess Charlotte and Prince George amongst the group. There was no bad behavior that I could see. They all seemed very much on their best behavior, shepherded very closely into the church by their respective mothers.
I think Meghan thought she just couldn't choose between all her girlfriends who to have as a matron of honour. So she's got a very beautiful but very young gaggle of page boys and bridesmaids floating behind her, chief of which, of course, has got to be the future King of England, Prince George, and his sister, Princess Charlotte, William and Kate's children. They will not perhaps be two-faced because they did this for Pippa Middleton, Catherine's sister, just a few months ago. But it's a big occasion. Also, there are a lot of godchildren. They're the Mulroney godchildren. Meghan is very friendly with Jessica Mulroney. And then there's a family called Litt. They live in California. And I gather that Meghan's always called them her other family. She's been very close to them. So there's their two children who are going to walk down the aisle. Harry is godfather to a little Warren child. Now, John Warren is the Queen's horse trainer. He trains all her race horses, so she's very close to him. And his wife, Lady Caroline, is the daughter of the Earl of Carnarvon, who used to train the Queen's racehorses, who she was very close to. So there's that connection. Then there's Mark Dwyer's son. Mark Dwyer has been a mentor and an advisor and a helper to Harry for a long, long time. And his little boy is also going to be following behind the bride. So they're little. It should be fun to watch them. And of course, we're fascinated to know how she's dressed them. The flowers are going to be peonies, roses, foxglove, and hornbeam. I imagine they'll look very regal in their little way.
The florist is Philippa Craddock, who Harry and Meghan chose together. She's a self-taught florist. She only started doing flowers in 2009. She has done some pretty big weddings. She's done some celebrity weddings. She did Ronan Keating's second wedding. Quite sumptuous, elaborate designs. But again, she's very into sort of locally sourced flowers. And we know from the details that we've had so far that there will be very in-season flowers that we'll see. So foxgloves, we know will be there. Garden roses, peonies, a lot of which will be coming from the Queen's estates as well, and foliage like hornbeam and silver birch, all of that's coming from the Crown Estate. So it's going to look very English country, but on a very grand scale.
When Meghan and Harry were pronounced man and wife, there was an uproarious cheer from outside that they could hear themselves, and they brought huge grins to both of their faces. Meghan and Harry very much felt the support of the great British public throughout the day because they could hear them very close, just outside the castle walls. And it was wonderful to see them react to what they could hear were cheers of joy and support. When Meghan and Harry emerged from the church, we had a beautiful shot of them framed by gorgeous bouquets of flowers. And then, of course, a very touching and romantic kiss, which we knew was coming, but it was nonetheless romantic and spontaneous when it happened. It has become tradition since Charles and Diana for the royal newlyweds to kiss for the crowd. Now, there was no balcony at Buckingham Palace here at Windsor, so what they did was, as they exited the church, they stood on the steps of the castle in front of all of these flowers, and they kissed. And it was absolutely magnificent and wonderful. The couple is clearly very much in love, and it was a beautiful moment. After Meghan and Harry exited the church, the royals stood behind them, several steps in a line. It was a way to show respect to the new couple, and it was a beautiful, beautiful family image. What you noticed was that Prince Charles was very attentive to Doria. From the moment they exited the church, he was making small talk, he was entertaining her, he was making her laugh. You could see very much that Prince Charles was trying to make Doria Ragland feel a part of the family from the moment that they became husband and wife. Poor Kate Middleton had about 25 days in total following the birth of Prince Louis before she had to show up and look beautiful at her new sister-in-law's wedding. This is something that all of us new mothers would have looked on with some dread. However, Kate Middleton, as usual, looked immaculate. She was wearing a primrose yellow Alexander McQueen coat dress. Now, of course, Alexander McQueen is who designed Kate's own wedding dress. So I think it was a nod and a throwback to that very special day for her as well. But today was a big day for Kate because not only was she on hand to support Harry and Meghan and William, but also her two children played a very big role in the service, and I'm sure she was nervous about their behavior. Prince George has been known to go off book more than once.
Just after 1 o'clock, the couple embarked on a celebratory carriage procession through the town of Windsor. The streets were lined with thousands upon thousands of cheering well-wishers. It was a grand and regal display, and the newlyweds looked over the moon at their reception. The procession passed along Castle Street, High Street, Sheet Street, King's Road and Albert Road, before finally returning to Windsor Castle along the famous Long Walk.
When Meghan and Harry took their very first carriage ride as husband and wife, they chose the Ascot carriage. Now, of all the carriages in the Queen's Mews, the Ascot carriage is the highest off the ground. They very intentionally chose this so that the most people could see them as a couple. Of course, it's an open carriage, very high up, and they were able to be easily viewed by all the many people who had waited hours and hours and days to get a look at this very happy new couple.
I think preparing to be a princess must be quite an interesting thing to do, and I rather wish I'd done it. she will have been taught now, and she will know now about who precedes her and who she has to curtsy to, because the royals are quite sticklers for that, because that sets them apart from everyone else. I think that she will understand that, and I think does naturally understand, that you make everyone welcome, you make everyone feel happy they're there. And there will be men who fought in Afghanistan with Harry there, who would never have dreamt in their lives that they would ever go to a royal wedding. So I think what they both are is very good at making people feel comfortable. Of course, she will have had to, I hope, practice sitting in one of those coaches. Her Majesty recently talked about how they're not all very comfortable. I mean, many of these coaches were made well over 100 years ago. Some of them have been fixed with sort of bumpers so you don't roll around too much. And also think how hard it's going to be, whatever the dress and whatever the veil, to climb up these narrow little steps and sit yourself down in the carriage and be comfortable. So I guess they'll have practiced that. I guess she'll have practiced her speech and asked for advice, possibly not from her husband, but from someone who's outside the family. I think that all the lessons she's probably been having in the last few months, getting to know the palace, getting to know the staff at the palace, getting to know the staff that work for Harry in particular, and those for Harry and William, and now they will separate. I hear they're going to have a large flat in Kensington Palace, as the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have. So they've been living in this tiny cottage. They're now going to have their own staff. They do have some already to handle their own arrangements, handle visits. And of course, they're not going on honeymoon. I should think they'll have 2 or 3 days to themselves, but there's a royal garden party in Buckingham Palace, and apparently Meghan has said she wants to go and Harry wants to go. And I think they'll probably drift off somewhere very romantic that means somewhere to them, Botswana or Africa or Australia, sometime in August when everybody else is away.
Well, as an American, I can say that we don't have princesses. For us, it's a Disney fairy tale. It's something that we admire, but we don't quite have. So for Americans, today's been a very magical day. There are as many Americans here nearly as there are Brits. Certainly in terms of television reporters, we've seen 300 people alone from NBC in America have come out to cover this wedding because Americans feel like we finally got our own princess. And not only that, the fact that she's biracial has been tremendously powerful for young girls who have yet to see a princess that looks like them. This has been an amazing day from that perspective. From the British side, Brits I know are not typically overly patriotic, but today has been a day of unreserved joy and affection. Prince Harry is one of the favorite royals of nearly everyone I know. And the reason is he's always been someone that people could relate to. He gets himself in trouble. He has done all kinds of naughty things, but it's the kind of thing that people laugh at, respond to, and feel like he gets it. Harry really distinguished himself in the military as well. I think that was kind of the making of him as a young man. He has shown an unabashed passion for humanitarian causes, particularly in Africa, where he set up his own charity. And I believe that Harry's beloved by the British public. Therefore, they're very much welcoming of his choice.
After the bells stop ringing, the crowds return home, and the parties are all over, the royal newlyweds can truly begin their lives together as man and wife.
Together, as I said, there's a hell of a lot of stuff and work that needs doing. At the moment, for us, it's going to be making sure that our relationship is always put first. But no, look, both of us have passions for wanting to make change for good, and with lots of young people running around the Commonwealth, that's where we're going to spend most of our time, hopefully.
And it was really one of the first things we connected on. It was one of the first things we started talking about when we met, was just the different things that we wanted to do in the world and how passionate we were about seeing change. I think that was, that's what got date 2 in the books, probably.
Plenty to talk about.
What is interesting about Harry and Meghan is she is an activist. She's been an activist before she met him. She spoke about feminism and gender equality in the United Nations. She cares about LGBT causes. She cares about Africa. She went to Africa to help get water to somewhere. So the Commonwealth is a natural interest for both of them, and we have a Commonwealth, Britain. Even though they're not part of the old British Empire, they voluntarily say they want to stay in the Commonwealth, and they have interaction with one another, and the Queen is their very head of state, and they like that, they choose that. So they have both said that they want to help with Commonwealth. Harry went on a fantastically successful trip to Jamaica before he met Meghan. And I think that would play into the fact that she is of mixed race, as so much of the Commonwealth is. And also, they want to change the world, these two. And I think having youth, having vigor, having excitement behind them, they will be in a very good position to change and help make the world a better place.
I think the new royals are setting a very clear message by the fact that they're not going on honeymoon, they're not jetting off to Mustique, they're going straight to work, back to kind of humanitarian interests that really joined them together in the first place. You know, Meghan and Harry have said from the beginning, in addition to the obvious mutual attraction, what united them was a common interest and passion for doing good. And the fact that as a couple, they're not even jetting off to the Maldives like William and Kate or anybody else. They're going straight to work, back out there, trying to help people. This is going to set the tone, I think, of their entire relationship.
We've seen Harry and Meghan out and about doing lots of engagements together for certain charities. Street Games is one, community-based sports project for young people that Harry's been very involved with, that Meghan has thrown her support behind. Also, we've seen them out and about at engagements that look at female empowerment and gender equality, which is something that Meghan's very keen on. We know when she gets married, she will join the Royal Foundation of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and Prince Harry. She will become the 4th patron of that. And then together we'll see them, doing a lot more engagements together around those core issues that foundation supports, which is conservation, supporting young people and the armed forces. After they get married, we're also going to see them embark on a lot of overseas travel. We know that just last month, the Queen made Harry a Commonwealth Youth Ambassador. And that means he's going to be doing a lot of work to support young people across the Commonwealth and also in the UK. So we know that in October, they'll be in Australia for the Invictus Games. That tour will almost certainly be widened out to possibly New Zealand, maybe some South Pacific islands too in the Commonwealth. So they are really going to be seen as a sort of young, glamorous royal power couple doing a lot of philanthropic and charity work, and also boosting, the monarchy standing and the causes that the monarchy supports, things like the Commonwealth that are very close to the monarchy's heart.
Well, I think for me, the standout moments were the first glimpse of Meghan's dress, seeing her standing on the entrance of the chapel, waiting to go in, looking magnificent. The train, Meghan's beautiful train, and also the very touching sight of Meghan's mother sitting by herself, holding back the tears, not quite so successfully. It's a big moment for any mother, but particularly for Doria Ragland today must have been incredibly overwhelming. Having your daughter walk down the aisle by Prince Charles is something rather extraordinary, and certainly would have been for her. There was also a particularly touching moment when Meghan first walked down the aisle to Harry. He looked at her and he said, "Hi." And then he said, "You look amazing." So for those of us romantics, it brought quite a tear to our eyes to see this couple that's very obviously madly in love see each other at the altar for the very first time. When Prince Charles finished his walk down the aisle, Harry turned to him and said, "Thanks, Pa." And it was very, very touching. And then we also saw, of course, the bond between William and Harry. William was very supportive of Harry and looked himself to be getting quite emotional on Harry's behalf. I think the connection between William and Harry, particularly in light of the fact that their mother couldn't be there, is all the more touching to see on this special day. I had the extraordinary good fortune to be at William and Kate's wedding as well as Harry and Meghan's today. And I would say what stood out to me was William seemed far more nervous than Harry did. Harry was far more emotional than William. We saw a lot more tears from Harry. I don't remember seeing any from William on the day. But in both cases, the brides appeared to be less nervous and more strong than the grooms, which I thought was very touching and romantic. Both William and Kate and Meghan and Harry appear to be two couples who are very much madly in love with each other, and far from the days in royals past where things were arranged and things were loveless. In both young couples today, we see a great, strong bond of romance, love, and affection.
The royal wedding of Harry and Meghan was one of the most celebrated and unforgettable spectacles the world has seen in a long time. A historic day, a pure celebration of joy and love. Their happily ever after begins now.